And before we hand over to our guest speaker, Thanh, we'll start with a brief introduction just to explain a bit why we're talking about the subject of farm animal welfare and why it's so important. Okay, so as some of you may be new to this topic, first of all, it's useful to just define what we mean by animal welfare. And we'll use a definition used by World Animal Protection. And that is that animal welfare refers to the quality of life experienced by an animal and encompasses how well the animal is coping with his or her current situation and surroundings. And when considering what is good welfare, we shouldn't only look for an absence of suffering, but also the ability of an animal to have a life worth living. So kind of to enjoy life, to engage in positive experiences. So that's just a very brief explanation of what we mean by animal welfare, because we'll be talking about it a lot. And it's something you may wish to explore further in your own time as well. Okay, so why farmed animals? Why are we talking about this? It's really because whenever animals are farmed for their meat, milk, or eggs, wherever it is in the world, if it's done commercially for profit, then animals do tend to be treated as objects or commodities rather than the sentient beings that they are. And their welfare may not be a priority. So profits often come before welfare in commercial farming. And this is especially true in intensive farming systems, where as many animals as possible are raised at the lowest cost possible. So this often results in overcrowded, unsuitable conditions where the animals really can't enjoy their lives. And such intensive systems are common in today's world as animals are being farmed in increasingly large numbers. Also, we're concerned with farm animals because of the huge numbers involved. And globally, more than 70 billion land animals are killed for food every year. So it's hard to imagine such a huge number, really. Farmed animals also tend to get less protection by law in most countries. And even if laws do exist, then the enforcement can be really difficult because of just the huge numbers involved. And so how do farm animals suffering? Well, unfortunately, there's a potential for farm animals to suffer at every stage of their life. So it could be poor conditions on the farms themselves. It could be the way they're transported to slaughter. Often this is over very long conditions, very long distances in very poor conditions, even to other countries. So these animals can go for miles and miles. And at the end, it's the slaughter process when, of course, welfare is often compromised too. So we know that billions of animals are killed globally for food every year. But what about in Southeast Asia? If we look at this table, it's hard to get the figures exactly for how many animals are raised for food every year because they're spread over so many farms. But what we can do is look at the number of animals slaughtered in each country. And this is just for 6 of the Southeast Asian countries. We can see these are huge numbers. So in 2021, nearly 8.5 billion broiler chickens, that's chickens raised specifically for their meat, were killed. Over 246 million ducks, over 88 million pigs. And for the other animals too, you know, the numbers run into millions or hundreds of thousands. So this is a lot of animals that are potentially suffering. And it's not just the animals who are killed for their food, for their meat. It's also the dairy cows who are kept for their milk, and the layer hens, the egg-laying hens. And these animals are often farmed intensively as well, in very overcrowded, substandard conditions. So these are some numbers for the number of dairy cows and layer hens in the 6 Southeast Asian countries. So what does animal agriculture look like in Vietnam specifically? We'll just have a very quick look at some key points before we pass over to Thanh. So as you all know, agriculture is very important to Vietnam culturally and economically. There's a very extensive poultry industry. In 2021, in Vietnam alone, 800 million chickens were slaughtered for food, 128 million ducks. And the pork industry is also very important. So over 47 million pigs were slaughtered for food in 2021. Vietnam is in fact the second largest pork producer in Asia. Only China is ahead. So a lot of pigs being farmed. And as well as being a big producer of animal products, Vietnam is also a big consumer. So pork is the most consumed meat, followed by poultry. And it's actually predicted that Vietnam will be one of the countries with the strongest meat consumption growth globally in the coming years. And how are the animals farmed? You probably know there are still many traditional smallholder farms in Vietnam, but there is a growing trend for fewer but larger farms with a shift from traditional farming practices such as letting cattle and goats roam and graze towards more intensive systems of farming, so bringing them indoors on concrete floors. This shift obviously creates certain welfare concerns. And in recent years, actually, huge sums of money have been invested into very large, modern, intensive farms. This is supported by the government as well. And this slide just highlights some media headlines about recent developments. Just this year, the largest poultry export unit in Southeast Asia was opened in Vietnam, and that aims to process 100 million chickens per year, so huge numbers. Large pig farms are opening up. I read about one such farm with 10,000 pigs on one farm. Eggs, a lot of them still come from small farms, but there are also the big intensive farms where hundreds or thousands of layer hens are crammed in small wire cages that we call battery cages. The smallholder dairy farms are still the most common dairy farming system, but large-scale dairy farms are flourishing in recent years as well, with herds of up to 8,000 cows on certain farms. So we can see that farming, there is a tendency for it to become more intensive. So just to summarize, if we do want to reduce the large-scale suffering of sentient beings, then farm animal welfare is definitely an area we can potentially make a big difference, which is why we're talking about it today. And it's also an area in Asia. It's generally not received as much attention as other areas of animal protection. So the good news is lots can be done to reduce the suffering of farmed animals. So from improving the living conditions and welfare of the animals themselves to actually reducing the demand for meat, dairy, and eggs. And thankfully, there are some fantastic organizations addressing these issues in Southeast Asia. And in recent years, there has been significant progress made. But lots more definitely needs to be done, especially as the human populations grow with the growing demand for meat, eggs, and milk. So we're very lucky today to have Thanh sharing some of the work that Animals Asia has been doing to help farmed animals, and also about the efforts to get organizations to work together to address these issues across Asia. So an introduction to Thanh. So he worked for Animals Asia for over 10 years and has only just very recently left the organization. At Animals Asia, he acted as the Animal Welfare Officer and then Animal Welfare Department Manager. His work involved public awareness raising activities and campaigning against the exploitation of animals in entertainment, for example, in animal circuses and elephant rides, and in traditional festivals. Thanh is the lead coordinator of the Asia for Animals Farm Animal Coalition. Asia for Animals is a network of 24 well-known and well-respected animal welfare organizations, supported by hundreds of global animal welfare organizations, with a shared vision and goal of improving the welfare of animals in Asia. So now I'm going to hand over to Thanh to tell us all about awareness raising and community building to help animals in Southeast Asia. So over to you, Thanh, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you very much, Amy, and let me share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen now. Okay, great. Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar. And but before we start, really just want to say a huge thank you to Wani, Divya, and Amy and Welfare Matters, everyone who are involved, for inviting me and offering me a chance to talk about my work. It's one of my great passion, like what I could do every day for animals. The topic today is I would like to introduce you about the work that we have been doing, which has always been the focus of my work in both Animals Asia and Asia for Animal Coalition, which is raising awareness about animal welfare in general and farm animal welfare, and secondly, building the capacity or building the community of those groups to help animals in Vietnam and in the continent. So because I work for both Animals Asia and AF and Asia for Animal, or AFA for short, and sometimes it's like confusing between the two organizations. Many people cannot distinguish what the difference, or maybe mistook the two organizations. So I'll take a few minutes to introduce each of the organizations, and then I will talk about what we do in Vietnam for farm animals, and what we do to build community of animal advocates in Asia, which is the second organization that I work with. And lastly, I will introduce briefly what skills that, in my opinion, is required in working, acting as the role that I have been doing. Firstly, about Animals Asia. So although the topic today is about farm animal welfare, and Animals Asia is invited, Animals Asia, it might not be the most active organization acting on behalf of farm animal in Vietnam, but we do have some many activities to help in this regards. About Animals Asia, we are founded. The organization was founded in 1998, and the headquarters is in Hong Kong, but they have office in China, Vietnam, in the US, and also have presence in UK and Australia as well. The organization is devoted to ending the cruel barbaric farming industry in China and in Vietnam, and also there's a mission to restore the respect for all animals. And in my previous role at Animals Asia, we focus on the second part, which is to restore the respect for all animals, including the farm animals and wildlife as a whole. And the second organization that I have been working in the last 2 years with is Asia for Animals. And in this role, in this organization, I work as a lead farm animal coordinator, as Amy introduced. And again, it's a network of 24 well-known organizations, but we are supported by hundreds. To be really exact, we have 271 organizations in our members in our network officially. We also are associated with over 355 other organizations. So that makes us being the AFA being the largest of its kind in this world. And AFA vision is and aims it to act as a united voice for its members, and appeals to government and corporates as well, and specific facility to oppose animal cruelty across Asia. So the next part is the focus of our talk today is what we did on a daily basis on raising awareness for Vietnamese. We at Animals Asia, we had the public awareness or public education program, which the aims to provide the public with knowledge about animal welfare. It could be general animal welfare, which is still a new concept in Vietnam or in many other countries in Asia. And we introduced that through many other activities, online and offline. And the second part is, second aims is to update the public of what is going on in the world of animal welfare, what law has been recently introduced, what country have like has passed something, or what scandal related to animal welfare, or what news in general. And thirdly, we aim to promote the compassionate living among the public, like through all through the daily activities and campaigns, and maybe sometimes it's the challenges or contests as well. How we did it? We did it through three main areas, or two main tools or way. The first one is through online events. And secondly, we organized offline events as well. And we also utilize the social media like Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter and TikTok recently. Considering Vietnam has a really big percentage of people using Facebook. Facebook has been our main source, and we own a Facebook fan page for that to serve this purpose. And then this is how we did it. The online event we hosted like through the series, we call it One Life series. So during the time of COVID, it's really difficult to host like offline events. So we hosted like the online, and the One Life series is a series of presentation by given by our staff and also the international staff and Vietnamese staff, to which cover like a whole lot of the topic, ranging from why we should stop like using wildlife in circuses, into how to take care of dog and cats, and also covers farm animals in like how parenting or how animals communicate, that include both animal in the wild and animal in farms and in surrounding us in our daily life. And on the with the online event, we also support the Asia for Animals to in their Asia Family Day event. So in 2021, for instance, we hosted an event, another like a webinar on the Asia Family Day day on the 10th of October, where we invited people who are like working for NGOs and who are also working to promote veganism, to join the events and tell people about their work, and explain to people how to save like hundreds of animals daily by just simply changing their lifestyle and their diet. With the offline events, we have been quite like try to organize as many different types as possible. That includes some people like that include presentation to the public, where animal safety staff give presentation to one of the topic that people interested. But we also want to offer people a chance to speak out and try to express themselves through debate session as well. This is where people can engage in directly in the conversation and express and compete with other group on matter. For instance, a topic might be like why we don't want to eat dogs, but people want to eat chicken and pigs, for instance. And that really that was really engaging. We saw people like interact more that way, and sometimes it's like compared to traditional presentation, like we give our information and people just listen. We also work with the student clubs. So in some of the activities, like the student might come up with, and they let us know, they invited us to come and talk to the student group. And sometimes we reach out to them and say, hey, if you have any opportunity, any chance, any activity you want us to support, then we're happy. And then so in the past few years, we have been working with a few student clubs from various universities as well. and this is one of the activities that we did. We hope that this could continue in the future. And the with the offline event, we also take like any opportunity that we could raise the awareness for Vietnamese. For instance, we display posters in the events that we are aware of, and that they allow us to like display the materials, mostly about veganism and about like the health benefit of consuming plant-based diet, or the benefit of like all the the impact of factory farming to the environment. And we also host like vegan cooking class in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City over the last few years, in 2020, with the help, the grant of ProVeg. We consider like, because when we want to talk about protecting farm animals, the best way is not to eat them. So it's as simple as that. That's why we organize the vegan cooking class. We also host the film screening about animals, about the life of animals in factory farming. And you might have heard movies like Dominions or Milk, and also cover a variety of topics with animals in entertainment and use for our like patients as well, like the Sleigh. It's a documentary film about how like the facing industry where we human farm animal for their fur, their skin, for our products. And on social media, as I said, Facebook has been is one of the most popular app in Vietnam among the younger generation. And we have a fan page called For Animals Vietnam, which have been active since I started the department in 2013, I think. And now we have over like 40,000 people, nearly 50,000 people follow us. And this is where we post like and update the daily life of the animal welfare movement, from general concept to particular topic. With regard to farm animal, we use the themes like the animal days, for instance, the pig day, the chicken day. We also use to link people to human to animals by celebrate the Mother's Day, and that featured like the relationship with the with the hen and their chicks, or the pigs with their piglets and other animals as well. And we also take the Thanksgiving to give out the message about turkey or chicken or pet in general for like consumption, animal consumption, and veganuary, to let people know what it means being a vegan in January. And it's that's pretty much what we did at Animals Asia. And at Animals Asia, we did a lot of other stuff. Our main focus was still in wild animal protection, but yeah, those are the activities that we dedicated to farm animals. If you want to learn more about Animals Asia work, then reach out to me later, or to any of my Animals Asia colleagues. And my second role at the farm animal at the AFA is the lead farm animal coordinator, and this is where we are building a community for animal advocates, and in this case of community of NGOs working on farm animal welfare issues. And the main aim of the Farm Animal Coalition is like what you see on the screen. We try to become a central to set up a centralized data of any organization who are working on farm animal welfare in Asia. And we host the Asia Farmer Day. The coming one will be the first time we host offline in Kuala Lumpur. Look out to our our website for the details, and we'd love to see you there if there's a chance. There will be travel awards for that event, so you can apply, and then your expense to the event will be covered. We set up farm animal subgroup as well, focusing on more particular campaigns like the policy alternative proteins and corporate engagement. And we support like the farm animal coalition members through their project as well, through the appeal letters or activities that, or any requests that they might have. And we will trying to become a shared resource focal point for NGOs, where we share the new articles, the new policy, and even like the upcoming events or upcoming funding rounds from NGOs or from the big grants. So this is some of the activities that we organized over the past few years. So the Asian Farm Animal Day event started in 2020, and this year we will be the first event. But our aim is to register AFAD as a known or an official day for people in Asia to celebrate for the farm animal on the 10th of October. And this is how we set up the resource. There's many articles that we share available online on our website as well. And anyone can, for instance, if you want to learn about poultry, about chicken, you can go to our website and search for poultry. There is a list of articles related to this issue. It's online and it's free. Sometimes you can download the article like in PDF as well. It's good for your reference, for your homework as well. And we support the Farm Animal Coalition member, the NGOs in this case, in sending a appeal letter to their government or to corporates to call for any demand, like particular demand by them and by the one of the organization member. And we normally get backed up the benefit of sending an appeal letter through AFA is you will be backed up by hundreds of other organizations, and it will make your voice like louder and supported. And in the future, we are looking into supporting more towards like building a regional movement. So, and we started doing that in 2022 last year. So we supported event hosted by the local regional NGO. So for instance, the Healthy Farm in Vietnam, they host an event that attracted many people to learn about egg laying hens and the life of eggs, and how the cage-free movement is changing the way people are farming, not only in Vietnam, but around the globe. And in Thailand, we supported the group to host a vegan cooking competition, where people are taught how to prepare like nutritious and healthy vegan diet, and also people can like join like a competition to with awards for that. It's a fun event, and it's attracted many people as well. Like you saw, like many people, 259 people participated. And in India last year, we also supported like a cycling event where people cycle with the message to emphasize like the role of living a healthy life, like eat green, ride a bike, love the planet. That's the message that they sent out with. That attracted more than 900 people from 8 Indian cities. And we'd love to hear, in this year, we are exciting to support the first Vietnamese Farm and Warfare Conference happening to be in July. And the event will looking into working with key players in the farm animal protection movement in Vietnam to and for them to engage the conversation with corporates, and also build relationship with the government agency. And we're looking forward to expand our support to other countries in Asia in the coming time. So what are the skills that are required to work to act at a farm, to advocate for farm animals or any animals in general? As you might see, some of the skill from the activities that we organize, so from online events or from through offline event, it requires some communication skills. It means how you can communicate with others for them to understand what you want to do, what you want to say, and what the message that you want to transfer. Secondly, the interpersonal skill, how you like talk to people and keep them like engaged or keep them like interested is one of those skills that it might at the very least, because like at the end of the day, your program wouldn't go anywhere if you cannot talk to people, or you talk and people don't understand or don't want to engage because you criticize them for eating meat, for instance. It's something for the interpersonal skills. And the organizational skills is needed for, although it's like not as high requirement for compared to others, but it requires you to be able to make a plan of what step to make if you want to organize an event, a film screening, for instance. Yeah, you must know like what to do first, what to do secondly, and then when it's done, what to say. Yeah, but yeah, there's many other soft skills, and yeah, sometimes you in some of the role you might need to have a basic understanding to some or like intensive understanding about about the issue, and particularly when it comes to like a project management or like campaign that might impact the animals in the long term. For instance, if you want to lobby the government for policy change, you need to have really strong and deep understanding about the science behind it and the way the government work, and how to change like a policy. Yeah, you just don't go and meet them and say, please change this because it's needed or because someone else did it. But the most important requirement is your willingness. If you're willing to do something, then you have the passion, you have the intention to do it, and you can work tirelessly towards that goal. And it's one of my favorite quotes. It's where there is will, there is way, and I think it has been reflected really well in my work, because there are many times when you will find like an obstacle that prevents you from moving forward. But if you're willing to contribute or to solve that issue, you will find a way around it, or maybe take a step back, but go 2 steps further, longer. Yeah, the willingness is the key here from my personal experience. And that's it for my presentation. I hope I didn't speak too fast, and you understand it well. Like, and if you have any question about any of the activity that we did with Animals Asia or AFA, or from my personal experience, please let me know. And here is my email if you want to contact afterwards. Thank you. I'll now leave the floor back to Amy, and the organizer.
Thank you so much, Thanh. It's been great to hear about the 2 organizations' work. Well, Thanh is involved in so many things, so oftentimes we just confuse his role a lot. It's great to hear what areas of work Animals Asia is focused on, and what the coalition, especially the Farm Animal Working Group, is working on. So this is the time for Q&A. We have about 20 minutes time. If anybody has any question, feel free to pop it in the chat. Otherwise, you can also turn on your camera, unmute yourself and ask the question. If in any case that you are more comfortable speaking in Vietnamese, it seems that we have a big Vietnamese crowd today. Feel free to also say it in Vietnamese. All right. Well, while waiting for more questions to come in, maybe I'll start with a few for Thanh at this point. Thanh, you have been in the movement for a very long time, longer than before I knew about all the issues about farmed animals. How have you been, based on your experience, how would you describe the changes in the movement, particularly for farmed animals from when you started the landscape in Vietnam as well as wider Asia till now?
Yeah, thank you, Nguyen. That's a very interesting question, and I'm really happy to say that the landscape has been changing dramatically, and happy to see more and more people expressing their concern about animal welfare, and particularly the farm animal welfare as well. And many people are willing to even change their diet and change their lifestyle into like more plant-based nutrition, like on their daily basis. It's been really progressed like towards a better life for farm animals, but for human as well, because the benefit of the plant-based nutrition to human health and environment. Still remember like the first time, or in the early days when we first like campaigning for just circus for macaques, monkeys, and bears in using for human entertainment. People laughed at us, and they said, or they even said like, it's fun, and it's like the animals are born for human to use. And now we're seeing like people expressing their concern. People are demanding for humane product like cage-free eggs or cage-free chicken, even shrimp welfare and fish welfare projects. So we are now expressing our concern to animals we haven't looked into like before, or we deem them as things or just merely our food, like the shrimp and the fish. So it has been a huge shift over the last decades. And yeah, in Vietnam, we saw as well, like people during my daily work, we heard, like we received report from people from the public about a dog or a cat being abused, or a circus traveling to their hometown and they don't want to see that. They contacted us and asked us how could they do to change that, or even like a pig being mistreated. So it's been a huge change in Vietnamese, and people are more willingness to, more and more people apply for a volunteer role in NGO organization, because they know like this is some meaningful work, and they want to help with help animals and help those organizations to help animals.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's really, really heartening to hear that. Do you have any sense of what is causing the shift in attitudes? I know it's so hard to pin down, but I'm just curious because this is day in, day out what you're doing. Any sense of what could be the factors that are leading to these shifts?
Yeah, there could be many reasons, but I want to think that education is the grassroots of the change. And it's thanks to the effort of NGOs and social media by not only NGOs, but many individual activists joining hand to promote the compassionate living, or to show the beauty and the uniqueness of animals, every species in our planet. And for the NGO work, they have been trying to expose the life like behind closed door in factory farmings, and also like working towards changing the policy for better higher welfare of farm animals. And like through social media, people are able to like learn about like alternative way to consuming like animal meat traditionally. Like most people are raised eating meat, and sometimes like in many cases they don't like it, but they don't know what are the replacement or what are the other options. But through social media or people promoting cooking vegan, there are many channels who are dedicated to teaching how to prepare like a good, like healthy, nutritious meal, vegan meal that people can prepare for themselves. And I think it's a combination of like NGO work or individual activities, advocacy, but knowledge and education is, I think that's what brought us here today.
I think that sounds like yeah, our own experiences as well, how we started to get more aware of the issues. I'm also a little curious also, folks, if you have any questions. Lefteris has one. So I will ask Lefteris first before I have quite a few. So Lefteris, shall I read yours out, or would you like to? Okay. So with so many years of experience in the animal advocacy space, Lefteris is wondering, what is the information you would like to have that is hard to find? Scientific, policy, knowledge gap, for instance.
Yeah, thank you, Lefteris. It's a really interesting question. I might, yeah, there's many, like with the development of science today, we and the attention of scientists towards like the animal welfare science, we are now knowing a lot about like the world of animal, what their behavior, what even in their cognition, what they are thinking, and how they perceive the life every day. But there are also some like challenges in our daily life where people still don't rely on science but rely on myth. For instance, like many people believe that eating vegan diet is not like healthy enough, that will make your body weak, or that will like make you like not as strong, or sometimes like make you sick. And it's not basically not rely on science, because the science proves otherwise. It's more like better for the health, better for the environment, and there are a lot like data and research about that. Also the myth of like consuming or the myth of like using animals as in medical or in traditional medicines. That's yeah, like it doesn't base on science, but more on the folklores or like people experience, or somebody say like, oh, use this and then it will cure your disease. So those are really difficult, like a challenge, and yeah, it takes a long time to change that based on science data, but also on like a survey or social activity, because like it's really hard belief like that rooted so deep in people's mind that it's difficult to change. So
and so do you have any, besides trying to insert more of such knowledge in the consumer group, are there any like research gaps that you find could empower you more in your work as well?
Yeah, definitely. There's yeah, there's as I said, like there are many research, but we do need more of research towards like the animal welfare their behavior and their mental health, mental capacity as well. So, for instance, and I believe when there's enough research and evidence, scientific based, then people will change their mind. For instance, we tend to treat animals like objects or like or in any way we want, because we believe they cannot feel pain, they cannot they don't have the cognitive capability to view the world as we do. And for instance, they cannot talk, they cannot love, they cannot they don't have like friendship or family relationship that we need to worry about. And it allows us to do what we do, like separate moms from the babies, like in the case of calf and the cows. Or chickens, like we beam the chicken big without knowing that it's give them pain. And so we do need more research on those topics, and it should be like published in many different languages, so people can read, can understand. And also it should be done sometime, in many cases, it should be done by local scientists, because for instance, in some Asian country, although there are many data research, scientific data outside available online, but when we present them with those data, they don't accept it. So I think there need to be more like science and research on scientific research in different countries, so people and it's so people like agree, or people like accept that it does exist. And through those scientists, like local scientists, they can explain to their people in the same country in their own way, in their own language, and it will be more like convincing to people.
Thanks, Thanh. Hope that answered your question, Lefteris. Indeed, I think a lot of knowledge are locked out when it's only in some languages. And I think Southeast Asia, where we are based in, is so diverse, that can really unlock a lot of knowledge for a lot more people who are interested in the topic. You mentioned a little bit about the West. Also, I want to encourage more people to ask their questions, because we only have a few minutes left. So raise your hand if you want to turn on the mic, or leave your question in the chat. And again, you can ask it in Vietnamese if you feel like that's something you prefer. Before the next question, I would ask Thanh, what are some of the differences that you see in the farmed animal advocacy movement in this part of the world versus like in the West, where we know that there has been a head start of decades. People have been doing a lot. What are some of the differences you observe, maybe in the approach that and the types of focus that people have been having?
Yep, thank you, Wani. That's a very interesting question as well. And to my experience, it's there's some differences in Western culture and in the Asian culture. It's related to like how the way we view the world, or the way we like socialize with people. In Western culture, like people tend to freely talk about what they care and what in their opinion. And why in the Asian context we are less like willing to do, because we worry about like being criticized or being told off by others, and sometimes like humiliated. For instance, we want to express like a person like might not want to tell people they don't eat meat because they love animals or they respect animals, but they tend to raise to explain it other way, like for health benefit or for regional religious purpose. And the way that's one of the factors that hinders the movement, because to build a movement you need like a force where there are many people who share the same vision or share the same concern, and yeah, those are things that could act as a hindrance. But it's changing. I mean, the younger generation I'm seeing is now more vocal about their concern, or more vocal about the way they view the world and express it. Secondly, the how the culture or how the society works in, or sometimes it could be sensitive in the way that people, like the government, want to put a rule or regulations to restrict people. In the West, people it's easier, and it's for people to gather and make like a march or vocal, or say demand like a company or a city government to change a law, when in Asian countries it's protest or demonstration is illegal. So it's really make it harder. But as I said, there is will, there is way. There are many other activities, other things that you could do if you could not go out to the street. You can start like gathering a group of people in a cafeteria to discuss, to talk about that, or debate, or even like talk about the positive things about like how animals form like relationship, how they communicate with each other, differently from human, or like how the parenting in animals, and that those can be seen, can be observed on a daily basis. You can see how chicken raise the chicks, and you will find out they have their own way to communicate. They have their own way to teach the chicks what is edible and what is not, for instance. Yeah.
Thanks, Thanh. Yes, that's I think that's something that's very true of what we observe as well. There are some methods that are more open for others in the West than in this part of the world. We do have another question here in the chat. Might be the last one given the time. So Jen is asking about besides knowledge gaps and cultural differences, from your perspective, are there other barriers that limits the take-up of plant-based consumption in Vietnam? For example, is the price economic factor as a barrier for taking up plant-based consumption rates? And then Jen is also interested to ask whether there are initiatives that tackle these obstacles.
Yep. I would say the context in Vietnam is different. So the economic is not the biggest one. In contrast, it's cheaper to consume plant-based diet in Vietnam, because we are an agricultural society or country, where we produce a variety of like agricultural products, from rice, from the roots, fruits, and nuts. And we even export it to other countries around the world as well. So it's pretty easy. And I switched from a meat eater to vegetarian, and then just only of a couple of years jump into vegan without any difficulty, because if I come to any restaurant, whether they are non-vegan restaurant, it's easy to order tofu, rice, some nuts like the peanuts or vegetable, and it's everywhere. So it's not easy. So but in contrast, because of the economic growth, there are more and more people who are now able to afford eating meat, and which is this could be the challenge for the society, because then the demand for meat consumption is growing, and people need to, and then it's come to factory farming, so to feed the population, and also the demand for economic growth set by the government or policymakers, that it's encouraging people to to take profit from farming animals. So those that we it might be different in other countries, like in Singapore, where you have to import most of the food that you consume, or in many other countries where you are not like producing as enough food and you have to import. But in Vietnam, we face a really like different situation here. That's why I think when you do the campaign or education awareness, you need to be specific to that country, and you need to adapt your message and your strategy so it works for the local population, local communities, instead of like applying one that is successful in Western country, for instance, or even in Philippines, but might not work well in Vietnam. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. I think that's solves part of the mystery of the barriers when Jen says thanks. Well, I have a few more questions, but we are at time for the end of the webinar. I think, if anybody has more questions for Thanh, you can reach out to him with the email he shared just now. And I would like to thank my teammates, Divya and Amy, for putting together the webinar, and thank our speaker for giving time today. He really had a very long day. It's very, very early on for farm animal movement in this part of the world, and we suppose that you're here because you're interested. So hopefully we can continue to cross paths and support each other on the journey to try to do what we can for farmed animals' welfare and reduce the suffering for them in this part of the world. So yeah, thank you very much again, everyone, for being here. We would send you a follow-up with the recording at some point in a couple of weeks' time. And hopefully we would be able to see you again at another event online. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Or good morning,
Bye.
if you're in another part of the world.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.